So welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Before we begin, let me say it's nice to see some familiar faces from some of the schools that we already work with. I can see some familiar faces, and welcome to the people who haven't joined one of our training sessions or haven't joined a training session with me. So welcome. Before we begin, can we just get a quick wave of hands? I'm going to say the island, and I want to see if that's where you're from. So if you are from Java, can you please wave your hands? If you're from Java, can you show us your hands? Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you. Now, what about if you're from Sumatra? Can you wave your hands if you are from Sumatra? Who is from Sumatra? We have some people from, great, I think Medan, maybe Lampung. Great. Now, if you are from Bali or East Nusa Tenggara, all the way to Papua, I think that way. Give us a wave of your hands. Great. Just a few of you from there. And if anyone's from Sulawesi, could you please wave your hands so we can see where you're from? Great. Okay, there's so many of you today. Hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to speak with some of you. Throughout the training, I will be asking questions. So as Ms. Ocha said, please use the raise hand function or feel free to type in the chat box if you have a question or a comment. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to do a warm-up activity with you because that's what we always start a class with. So let's start with an icebreaker activity. Okay, this is something again that you can do with your students. Okay. Great. Okay, so this activity is when I ask students to show me something that starts with a letter. This is for lower primary. Usually I use this. This is an activity where Oh, sorry, I didn't talk about Kalimantan. My apologies. I thought I was forgetting an island. I moved on too quickly. So if you're from Kalimantan, please, sorry, wave your hands. I forgot one. My mistake. I need to go back to Indonesian geography class. Okay, so if you can show me something that starts with S. So that means look around your table or your office or your space, and can you hold up something in front of the screen that starts with S? Can anyone do that for me? Anyone do that for me? S. I've got someone pointing to a shirt. Thank you, Miss Christina. You're pointing to a shirt. Oh, I've got someone else holding up some scissors. Can anyone got any scissors nearby? Something else that starts with S. Can someone show me? Yes, please put it in front of the camera for this activity. I'm not going to call on people because we have so many people at the moment. Scissors, yes, Miss Indira, thank you. Scissors. Yes, I have somebody show me a sock as well, fantastic. Yes, so that means they have to, this activity means that students have to hold up, great, skirt, great, great, you show me the word, yes. So with this, you can either do it as Miss Christina, you did, with writing the word, or it can be an object. So for example, you could show me scissors. For my lower primary students, I give them some objects to help, and then they have to find them in their house and come back and show it to me. Okay? Great, lots of answers in the chat box. Great, shoulders, snack, good. Again, remember it's something that you have to show. That means you have to show me in front of the camera. Now, what about for a different level? Here is show me an action that starts with C. So this is not an object. This is do something with your body. Can somebody show me something that starts with C? An action you can do with your hands and your face? Can anybody, let me scroll through the videos to see if I can see. Yes, Ayuthia, I can see. Climbing. Yes, Miss Ayuthia Setiawan. Climbing. Good job. Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else can show me an action? I'll show you some pictures. Oh, yep, great. Miss Latifa Febrian, clapping. Good. Clap. Great. Thank you. Anybody else? What about if you're very upset? You're very upset. What might you do? Yeah, good. Cry. Again, so for lower primary, you can give them some pictures. What about this one here? Cough. Yep, cough. But of course, at the moment, we have to make sure we're doing it with our mask on if we are coughing. Okay, good. And finally, for upper primary, to make this more difficult, this you can do with show me something that ends with a letter, because ending letters are much more difficult to think of than a beginning letter. So can anybody show me something? That means you can hold up something like this, for example. What's this? It's a phone. Phone ends with E. Can anybody else show me something that ends with E that they can think of? Yep, so other people showing their phone. Good. Anything else? Got some answers in the chat box.
We have somebody here from Miss Melina. She is showing a mouse. The mouse.
Oh, great. Yes, computer mouse. Thank you, Miss Melina. Thank you. So many people to try to look at the video. Sorry if I miss some of you. Somebody is pointing to a tree. Somebody else is holding up a bottle. Fantastic. Great. And again, if you want to, you can show them pictures to help as well. So that's just a fun little active game that you can use to start your primary lesson. Okay, so we're warmed up now and ready to begin. Today, we are looking at the topic of technology, helping with speaking for primary. That's what we're looking at today. I'm using materials mainly from Let's Go today, but this is also if you use any of the Oxford titles, Family and Friends perhaps, or Everybody Up, or even Oxford Discover. These activities are able to be adapted. So the content for today, we're looking at three things today. First is managing the lesson, what we need to do before. Then we're looking at speaking activity ideas, which is what most of you will be interested in, I'm sure. That's most of what we're talking about today. And then tools. So we're just going to have a quick look at some tools that you can use for self-study and evaluation. Okay. And something that we need to keep in mind is that teaching online is something new for all of us. And remember that once we were beginner teachers as well. If you think back to your first semester when you first became a primary teacher, especially with primary students, we feel a little bit like we're a beginner. And a lot of us feel like that now, again, because we are learning how to teach differently. So again, it just takes time and practice, and also it takes time for your students to get comfortable. We are trying as best as we can, so we're going to look at some activity ideas today to help with speaking. So what are some challenges with doing speaking activities online? You can write your answers in the chat box, or if you'd like to talk about your difficulties, please raise your hand, and we'll choose a couple of people to talk about their issues that they're facing. So please either chat box, or I will ask some people. So if you want to volunteer, you can raise your hand. And Ms. Ocha, if there are any volunteers, could you please call on them to answer this question, to share with us what are some issues. We already have some people in the chat box saying yes, of course, internet connection, which is something that I can't personally help with. Unfortunately, I would like to fix the internet connection problem. But would anybody like to talk about their issues?
Yes, Mr. Todd, we have Miss Intan Paradita.
Okay, great. Miss Intan, good afternoon.
Please please unmute yourself first, and also turn on the camera.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm Intan Faradita. I'm from Baitul Jannah Islamic School.
Great. Good
Okay.
afternoon.
When I teach my students, to, especially in speaking, sometimes the children is difficult in spelling the words, like the difference between E, A, and the other vocal. And the other is the internet connection, but the very difficult is with their pronunciation.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
And you told us the school you're from, but which city are you from, Miss Intan?
Pardon me, Mister?
Sorry, which city are you from? Where do you live?
I am from Lampung.
Okay, great. Thank you. From
I'm from
Lampung.
Lampung.
Thank you.
Mister.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Yes, so we have some problems with kind of delivering the material, getting students to practice things like spelling and pronunciation, and also, of course, internet connection, something that I can't really help with, but I can show you some ways to, and we'll talk about the flipped classroom and about what we need to spend time on together and what they can do for homework. So thank you. Would someone else like to tell us their issues, concerns, or successes? It doesn't always have to be problems. Anybody else? Yeah, technical problems, of course, yes, and they don't have troubleshooting capacity, definitely. So we want to make it as simple as possible. That's why we should frequently use the same kind of system and have their IT teacher help them learn how to do it. They need to be taught how to do it, not just by magic, they'll know. Okay, great. So I'm going to answer some of these problems here today. So let's move on with, yes, we've got some pronunciation activity ideas, etc. Exactly, and parents also. Okay. But can we remove the, there we are, thank you. So just to talk first about managing the lessons, the first idea is that the principles and the stages of speaking and all things really are the same. It's just that the delivery, that means how you give the teaching, and how students practice will be different. So we don't need to forget everything that we know about teaching. We can just build on and adjust. The three principles for teaching speaking, particularly online, is keep instructions simple. If they have to switch between too many apps, too many devices, too many different things, it becomes too confusing. Provide a clear model. That means either using the listening from, using the audio from the teacher's book or student book, plus also yourself. Again, this sometimes is a problem with internet connection. And we utilize different tools effectively. We don't need to use many different tools in one lesson. But if we're doing speaking, we might use different tools to reading, for example. So let's take a look here. Also from today, that the teaching tools we'll be using, again, printed books are really useful and a big help for teachers and for students. Teachers is, of course, because then you have a course guideline and you can access all of the extra digital materials, including testing, which we'll talk about later. And also for students, it helps them focus because they have something to look at that is not just the screen. Our students are spending so much time on screens that having a paper book can really help. Also, studies show that when we read text online, we remember less, or on a screen, we remember less than if it's in a book. So to help students remember, and that means they can review even without internet connection, or their brother or sister is using the computer, they still have a book, a printed book that they can refer to. So it's good to have, even though we are doing lessons online, that the printed book is such a big help. ITools, if you are not familiar with ITools, again, all of the Oxford primary publications have ITools or class presentation software. And again, this makes it so easy for the teacher to prepare the lesson instead of taking a photo of the book and scanning it and uploading with the audio, which is still possible, of course. It's just faster and easier, better quality image if you use the ITools or the presentation software. I'm going to use this a few times in today's session, so I don't want to talk about it too much at the moment, but for all OUP series, the ITools look very, very similar because they're designed by the same people. So if you know how to use one Oxford ITools, you know how to use all of them. They're very simple and straightforward. Okay? Now, the first question also before we start teaching is how? How are we going to do the teaching at the moment with the online situation? Here are some common apps or platforms that people use. Zoom is what we're using now, of course. PowerPoint, a lot of teachers are using Zoom and PowerPoint together. Some schools are using an integrated Google Classroom approach, which then has Google Documents and Google Meet. Of course, Google Meet doesn't have breakout rooms, but you can arrange different meetings for groups of students. Primary, it's a bit difficult. That's more for secondary. Nearpod, if anybody use that, and also quizzes. Would anybody like to share with us which tools they use and why they use them? Great, we've got Google Classroom, Zoom, Google Meet, quizzes, great. Go Class, someone else saying here. Google Drive, yes, if you're not an integrated, if you're not using a school system like Google Classroom, you can just use Google Drive to share documents and collaborate. Great, I'm going to use some of these today as well. For primary, especially lower primary, we need to keep it simple as possible, yeah? Great. Okay. Now, this is a quote from Charles Darwin that you may or may not have seen before. Charles Darwin talks about the ability to adapt. So at the moment, we need to change. We can't keep teaching in the same way. And even when we go back to face-to-face classes, hopefully, we might still be using some of the technology ideas that we are using now to help with things like homework. One of the biggest problems with homework is students often don't want to do it. And if we can provide a fun learning platform, either through OUP or creating documents through things like Google Drive, Google Classroom, it's a great way to manage. Once we get used to it, it makes it less work, especially for assessment, if we can do assessment online. Now, if we're talking about adaptability, we look at this little animal, the chameleon. Adaptability. Everything from today's session can be adapted to suit your classroom. It doesn't matter which book that you use. Okay? Great. Yes, and Nearpod also integrates with Zoom, in case anybody's using that here. Now, this is what we're here for today. For the next 60 minutes, so most of the session, we're talking about activity ideas. This is what we are probably most focused on, because that's what we're here for. So let's get started. When we look at a book series, or if we're planning our own materials, first we always want to start with a controlled task. A controlled task is sometimes directly from the book, or it could be something like a dialogue that you've already written, or a simple Q&A as something that the teacher really controls, so the students are practicing grammar and practicing vocabulary correctly. So this is usually a short little dialogue or something like that. So what are the benefits of this? You can type in the chat box and maybe we'll ask a few people, what are the benefits of a controlled speaking task? That means a dialogue probably, or something that's very simple. What's the benefit of that? Would anyone like to either raise their hand to share with us or type the answers in the chat box? Don't be shy. Yes, Miss Eva says having clear objectives. Yes. Penny says keep the focus. Yes. Yes, also Alfred says you'll be able to attain your goals. Yes. Speaking another language is very, very challenging, especially if it's free talking. If we and learn the patterns, thank you, Maureen. Yes, thank you. We learn the patterns so that the controlled task helps put together vocabulary and grammar into the correct pattern. So then later they'll be able to reproduce it in a more free way. We can't start with something like, okay, good morning everybody, let's have a debate. Like, oh no, we have no structure, we have no content, we have no ideas, we have no warm-up process. So especially for lower primary, I'm focusing at the for today a lot on lower primary because that's what teachers have told me is the most challenging. Upper primary, they can learn, they can use technology a little bit better, they're a little bit more confident, but let's start with the lower levels, primary 1, 2, and 3 basically. And for that kind of activity, I'll show you in a minute. After we've done our practice that's controlled, we want to create free or extend speaking activities. What is the purpose of this? What's the purpose of then having them? Because if we just do dialogues, what's the problem? Yes, Alfred, great. Thank you again, Alfred, for responding. You can develop creativity. Language is a creative tool to express ourselves. We are not robots that say the same thing every time. Yes, benefit use of book can create more memorize. Yes, so if it's just from the book, students don't necessarily remember as much because they don't have to think. If we think, we remember. So that's definitely something that we can help with practicing the book and then moving, using the language but in a different way. Stimulate imagination, express their ideas, yes. Can talk about themselves. Yes, so again, we can start with very simple tasks and build them to become more challenging. So let's take a look at how we do that. Okay? So here is something very simple that we might see at a low-level Oxford book series. It's a simple dialogue, and dialogues are one of the best speaking tasks for unconfident, lower-level students, especially primary 1 and 2. So if they are not confident, this is a great way to help them at least start speaking, yes? Even if they are just learning the sounds of English, getting them to speak. Now, that's all very well and good, but how do we do that in the digital classroom? Does anybody have any ideas? How could we turn, this is a dialogue that has an audio and a book, but how are we going to do this online? Because we can't do it the same as we would do in the classroom. Any ideas? Okay, just because of time we don't, okay. Yeah, okay, ask students to read the dialogue in the book. Good, yes? Yeah. Good. Pairing them to do role play. You spin the wheel, I think that's to choose which students will perform the dialogue. Let me show you the steps that I would go through. First is to listen and look. So first, students need to hear the dialogue, especially if they're low level, to hear their pronunciation. So the teacher CD or the ITools soundtrack is really useful. Then, second, listen and read. That means everybody reads together. Now, if you have a lot of students, ask them still to put their microphone on silent, but they can read together. Then we might read in a group. So I might ask 3 students to be the mother and 3 students to be the daughter, or different characters. And also then it can read in pairs. Yes, record video also is another way to do that, and we'll talk about that recording later as a way for assessment. You did it with your students today? Oh, great. Try, thank you. Or was it tree, probably, sorry. Great. So this is a simple dialogue that steps are look and listen and read silently. then read everybody, the whole class, and then we might choose pairs to do the dialogue. Good. So how can we expand that? Because that's good, but it's very, very controlled. And students will get bored very quickly. So before or after speaking, we can get them to describe the pictures. Now, if students will probably say, "Oh, eat spaghetti," yes, but they already have some vocabulary about clothes, about hair, about boy, girl, mother, sister, brother, family. So we want to ask them questions about the picture to really get them to practice. So what can you see in the picture? Where are they in the house? What are they wearing? What are they doing? How do they feel? So depending on the level of your students, yeah, what color is the t-shirt? What color is it a cupboard or a refrigerator or a window or a table? So whatever you've taught them before, it's good to review. Excuse me. And again, you can do this by selecting individual students to do that, or get them to type in the chat box. For lower primary, we want to get them speaking as much as possible because they can't type quickly. So yeah, good. And also things. Thank you. Food and things. Yes, what are the objects again? Someone asked here, Ella, how to get them to describe the pic if you haven't given the vocab. Again, ask them questions with vocabulary that you know they already know. So this is Unit 5, and that's maybe myself, so describing hair and describing things like this. I think the second unit is family, so they should know some of that vocabulary already. So as the teacher, you need to look at the units before, and then you can make your questions appropriate. Yeah. So for example, this level 2 probably don't know the things in the kitchen. So I wouldn't ask them about things in the kitchen, but even for simple, if this was grade 1, what color is this? And I can use my mouse to point. What color is this? What color is this? Even if they don't know the words, but they know colors. How many people, how many boys, how many girls? So yeah, just choose the question based on what you already have taught them. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you. Great question, Ella. Thank you. Here, now we want to do so Appendix says here, in this step, is it wise if we use our mother tongue? Depending on the level. If you're doing grade 1, beginner, absolute grade 1, then you maybe use mother tongue, but you can even point to simple things and say color, 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 and then you can get them to hold up a color pencil that's the same color. That's what I do with my kindergarten classes for online. So what color is this? Purple. Show me purple, and in their pencils they have to find the purple pencil and hold it in front of the camera. So there are ways to make things quite easy. And also is it Sylvia asking, is it okay to switch language? Yes, because you don't know your students. Maybe they're very, very beginners and technology is confusing, online lessons are confusing. We need to do whatever we can to make this first semester enjoyable and successful. So if you're having to use sometimes first language, then I think we're in a situation that we didn't expect and students are not trained. So for things like classroom rules or technology explaining, I think in first language is okay, but try as much when you're teaching book content to not translate. They can see from pictures, even if they're translating in their head. Try to keep one language only, unless it's something difficult, as I said, like a management situation. Okay, so second now, to keep it simple but with a little bit of freedom, a little bit of flexibility, we can get them to change the key vocab. Of course, you've probably done something like this already, but it is quite effective. So they're learning the grammar pattern, but they're just changing the word. So what's for? And here in the green box, I've given them the words. So it's very clear what they have to do. Hi, what's for lunch, Mum? Fried rice. That's good. I like fried rice. I do too. So you can get them again to The next simple step is to change some of the vocabulary. Don't change the grammar or the sentence structure. So of course that's a very simple task. I'm not going to get you to do this task at the moment. We have some tasks coming up that I want you to interact with. But these are quite simple, and I'm sure you don't have to practice how to do a dialogue. I'm sure you know how to do that. Do we restate the words when they have answered our question with mother tongue? Yes, I think that's an effective technique, particularly if it's vocabulary. Particularly if it's vocabulary. If it's some grammatical question, then maybe not. That's a bit difficult. Okay, next. A dialogue extension. Again, this is a simple dialogue, and we always want to think of ways to review language from a previous unit. So, what do you want? And I want comes from later in this unit, but you know what you've already taught them last week, the week before, earlier in the book, or even last year's book. You can look at the table of contents all on the OUP-ELT website. I'll share the link later. You can access all of the table of contents or scope and sequence for all of the Oxford books. So if you're teaching grade 2 this year, you can look at the table for book level 1, and you can see what grammar they should already know. So it's always a good idea to check the year before. Yeah. Okay. Next. So here we could just add on one more question and answer, just to extend it a little bit. Okay, so let's review here. What are some speaking activities that we can do with... Oh no, hang on, just 1 minute, please. We have a light bulb. Did I have a light bulb here? Yes. That means I would like to hear from you. What other activities do you do with dialogues? Someone can either raise their hand, or you can type in the chat box. What other activity ideas do people use with dialogues? Any ideas? Anybody want to raise their hand? Want to talk?
Silakan, bisa gunakan fitur raise hand.
Good, we've got role play, people are saying. We can have picture discussion. Great, a game. Okay, Ella, you said a game. Could you please tell us what kind of game that you usually do with the dialogue?
Maybe we can invite Miss Ella, yeah, Mr. Todd?
Yes, please.
Hello, Miss Ella. Would you please unmute yourself first?
Yes,
And
thank you.
Turn on
Hi,
the
Miss
camera,
Ella.
Miss, so we can see your face.
Yeah, one moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Miss Ella. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mr.
Which school are you from?
I'm from Al-Azhar 58, Balikpapan.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I missed your island before, Kalimantan. So welcome to everyone from Kalimantan. Thank you. And what kind of games do you do with a dialogue?
Usually, actually, we already have the book. Then in the book there are some like dialogue, and I start to read the dialogue, and then I stop. After I stop, they raise their hand, and then they will raise up their hand to continue my dialogue. So those that stay focused on me knows where I stop. But those that don't focus on me, they don't know where I stop.
Great.
Like
and
very simple game.
Yeah, great. And you can do that online through video call as well. That's easy. You could also get other students for higher levels to type the next word that's coming.
Yes.
Another game. Another game you can do is called My Mistake. So what happens is the teacher reads the dialogue, but you change some of the words. And when the students hear a mistake, they have to put their hand up and say, no, it's not pancake, it's spaghetti. So you read the dialogue, but you change, and you have to listen. They have to listen to see if they hear a mistake. It's quite good for low level as well, because they can read and then they can hear, the text and the voice don't match. So then
that's a good idea, Mister.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. It was the development of the game. Thank you very much. It gives me more idea for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep, giving opinions of something. Miss Emma said. So in this dialogue, it's quite simple. It would be, do you like spaghetti? Yeah. What do you like for lunch? So that's simple vocabulary about likes and dislikes. For higher grades, we can play a word race. Miss Mutiara, could you please tell us a bit more about that, Miss Mutiara?
Miss
Ms. Acha,
Mutiara?
can you, yeah.
And also,
This is here.
okay, thank you.
Play a word race. Can you explain that to us, please?
So for higher grades where there are lots of conversation there, dialogues there.
Yep.
So, oh, sorry, I haven't started my video.
That's okay. We can see you now. Sorry, which school are you from? And sorry, which city are you in? And which school are you from?
I'm from SD Gloria, SD Kristen
From
Gloria.
Surabaya.
Yes.
Yep.
And we're using the family and friends books.
Great.
Okay. And then usually I ask them to listen and read first. After that, I'm going to focus on the first box because there are some boxes. And then I ask to focus on the first box, and I will say like first sentence, third word said by Tom, and they have to say first, and when I call out their names, they can answer what is the word.
Okay, great.
Like we play find a word, so I will say play, so they have to find the word play and then do the annotation, circle the word on the screen like that.
Great, thank you. And a way to extend that if you have time, or you could assign it as homework. It could be, okay, so as you said, Tom, third word, and his third word is travel. And then you could choose another student. Okay, John, make a sentence using that word. So then you're kind of building short phrases or sentences, and if they can do it correctly, then they get a point if you play team games or something like that. So yes, always think about things that you already know how to do and your students are comfortable with. Again, each month they might get bored of some activities if they're too common. Think of, okay, what's the next step from that? They already know the find a word activity. Okay, it's find a word plus sentence creation or question to ask another student. Do you like to travel? And then they have to choose somebody else. So it's always think about, what do I already know is successful and fun and good, and how can I adapt that slightly? So great idea. Thank you, Ms. Mutiara from Gloria in Surabaya. Yes? Great. Yes. Natanya here said, yes, you can replace the words with other words, so then you're practicing more vocab. Yes, some great ideas. Some great ideas here. Yes, okay, let's look at the next part. Also for lower primary especially, we have a lot of songs, and lower primary enjoy singing songs usually. So here, again, this is quite simple, yes? We can play the song, we can show the words, and we can have students to read the song read along with the song, yes? If you also go to the Oxford website, which I'll put in the link in the handout, is already there. For family and friends and everybody up, and also maybe Let's Go, I'm not sure. But they have animated videos for all of their songs. So you can play the video, so it's not just looking at the words in the book, but through the website that's free to join. You just need to sign up for it. I'll send you the link a bit later. You can play the song. And so what else can we do with this? So how can we do this online? Of course, first of all, we can listen and read silently like we would do for the dialogue. I think it's important to not expect students to sing straight away. They need to listen to the music and they need to hear the voice first. Then always with a song, I think actions are good. So together with your class, you can teach them actions. Again, they can come up with their own actions if you want them to. This is a very simple, again, this is level 2. and this is quite a simple song here. Sing in groups. So yes, you could have, okay, now it's the boys' turn to sing, and it's the girls' turn to sing. But for this, I wouldn't say, girls, you sing all of the song, boys, you sing all of the song. That means they have to wait for their turn. I would say, okay, girls, you sing the first line, the third line, the fifth line, etc., or half and half. The more students you have in this, if you have them all unmuted, it becomes chaotic. So we can't practice that today with all 200 of us, or 100 and something. Yes, so maybe we say, okay, boys and girls, you can swap lines. I would not ask individual students to sing by themselves. That's too stressful. And some other people have said here, yes, sing a song in a pair using another app like a Zoom breakout room, perhaps. Guess the next lyric to the song. Yep, you could have a gap or hiding some of the lyrics. Send a recording song to the group and then send their voice when they sing along. Yes, and they can do a little performance with it as well. Somebody said here about teaching songs for kindergarten. Songs for kindergarten have two kind of different things. For a song like this in kindergarten that's quite simple and it's made from a book, then we can kind of do it with actions, and I don't focus too much on the words to start with. With my new Teka A students, I sing and they do blah, 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 but they do the actions. And then after some weeks and after some months, they then know what they're saying because we've taught the vocabulary for Old MacDonald had a farm. Oh, yes, chicken, now we know chicken, and now we know snake. So teaching songs to kindergarten, don't worry about if they understand the vocab too much. It's about actions and it's about fun, about movement. That's what the focus of kindergarten singing is, especially for beginner kindergarten. Then if you regularly repeat the song over and over each week, then they'll start to know the words. So that's my advice. Okay, what are some other things we can do with the song? Well, like we did with the dialogue, we can also substitute the words in the song. So for example, we could change it with words that they choose. We could ask them their favorite food, that kind of thing. With upper primary about singing, I would do first as changing the song into a gap fill activity. That would be my first choice, because for upper primary, just listening and reading to a song can be a little bit boring. So first, check the Oxford website for the videos that you can watch for free and download. At least you can watch them online that have animation that makes the song a bit more interesting for upper primary, and get them to do something. That means gap fill. Why? Because then they pay attention. Sometimes upper primary just hear a song and think, oh, boring song, I want to listen to Taylor Swift or something. So instead, with a song, give them something to do, not just listen. It could be circle the correct word. It could be correct the mistake. It could be gap fill. Yep. Great. Yes, another one, as Miss Lila said, ask them to write the lyric. Yes, that's my next idea here, I think. Whoop. Yes, so this could be done as a homework task. Also, for upper primary especially, you can get them to write comprehension questions about the song to give to other students. So for example, I asked my students, okay, everybody, I want you to write one question, just one. That means in my class of 20 or 30 people, it doesn't take too much time. And it can be a true false, it can be multiple choice, it can be whatever, but it's just one question. And then I say, okay, Jane, could you please ask your question to Mary? And so they can do that verbally. or they could do it in breakout rooms as well if you're using Zoom. So for upper primary, we have a few more choices, a bit more independent. Okay. So what are some speaking activities? Anybody else have any other ideas about teaching songs? In the chat box, we're looking at, yeah, songs are great for pronunciation, definitely. Yes, write their own song or extend the song, write another version, a verse. Yes, also we can use songs for grammar, talking about substituting the pronoun, maybe changing the adjectives. Guess the song, yes. You can play a song and see if they can guess it maybe from previous units or from pop songs. Yeah, great. Ella says, great. Yeah, play the song for 5 seconds and then ask them to guess the titles. Songs are really quite useful as a teaching tool. It's a bit more interesting than reading for some students. Also, if this is something that you have time for, you can look for pop songs that contain the same kind of vocabulary. It gets a bit difficult though sometimes with those songs. So I use them as a reward. So if we finish our work for today, I will teach you some lyrics from a, I don't know, Taylor Swift song or whatever they want to hear. Yes, great. Cindy is saying, place the singing chair. That's great when we're back in class together. It'd be great. Yes. Yep, phonics. Okay, great. Next, let's take a look at our next type of task. And this might be in your book, or this might be as a look slightly different, but it's basically a Q&A task. So it's a simple, controlled question, answer. Sometimes there's a response and an answer as well. So here, this is the focus of the grammar. What's for lunch? The answer is spaghetti, pizza. Do you want pizza? Yes, I do, or no, I don't. So it's a very great fried chicken. You can fill it in with your own favorite food. There's pictures in the background to help, but they can choose their own. And this is a very simple activity. But again, we know this already. We're not beginner teachers. We know how to do simple question and answer, but we want to know, how do we do this online? That's what we're here for. So who has some, suggestions for how to do this online? You can raise your hand or chat box if you wish. Miss Ucha, maybe we can find some volunteers. Hear some other people's voice instead of just mine.
Is there anyone or somebody who would like to participate using the raise hand feature? Or maybe we can invite someone, yeah, Mr. Todd?
Yeah, you can choose someone, Miss Ucha, yes. Choose someone who is responding in the chat box or looks like they're ready to share.
I think I'm going to invite Miss Sardiani Harahap. Silakan, Miss Sardiani. Hello, Miss Sardiani. Would you please unmute yourself first?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you please tell us which school you are working at and which city you're in?
Yes. I'm from SDS Kristen Tabga, but from Batam.
Okay, great.
According to me, if we talk about food, we can see from this picture, for example, what's for lunch? So firstly, I want to show the picture to the students, and then they guess what picture I saw them.
Okay.
And after that, we make in sentences, and I choose one of the students to make their own sentences according to this picture.
Yes. Great. Yes, so you can help stimulate the conversation with pictures that you can show on the screen, and you can choose students to, okay, John, can you ask Sarah the question? Okay, Sarah, can you ask Mary the question? Okay, Mary, now you ask. So you can do question and answer as a group.
Yes.
Yes, it says here it's hard for students to answer this without an example from Mr. Agung Putra. It says here that it's hard for students to answer without an example. The example is in the dialogue from before and also in the song. It's the same language pattern. Yeah. What's for lunch? Do you want? Yes, please, or no, thank you. So they've already learned it, and also in the song. So they've already had the exposure to the pattern a couple of times. Okay. Again, you can do this as a whole class, as I just did. Okay. Ask someone and they answer. Then that person asks and answers somebody else. Or you can do this as a survey in a breakout room with like a Google document. You can make a Google form with the survey questions, and they have to type the answers for a survey. Maybe not this survey necessarily, but a survey in general. We can put them into groups. Even with Google Classroom, you can create meetings for different groups of students. So it's not exactly a breakout room, but it has their own meeting. For extended speaking tasks, I think that's useful, but for something quick, I think it takes too much time. So it's always useful to think, how can we do a little bit of practice first together, and then maybe it's a homework task to record with you and your friend, and they set up a Zoom meeting or a Google meeting. But again, you have to show them how to do it. Yes. And as it says here, with Zoom, you can ask directly from Ms. Rivka. You're using Google Classroom. And so there's a live document, and students can type their answers at the same time. So Google Classroom is a really great tool to keep track of live lessons for higher levels. I think for lower primary, we need to do a lot of Zoom and slides. Great. Okay. As I said before, it could be extended questions if you think your students are capable. So it could be, what's for breakfast? What's for dinner? What's for lunch? The grammar is the same, but the vocabulary will be slightly different. So what's for breakfast? Cereal or bread. Do you want bread? No, thank you, or yes, please. So it's just a bit more freedom in there as well. Another, great. This kind of activity, especially online, is quite restricted, but you can, again, do it through a Google Zoom meeting. Let's now take a look at some vocabulary and grammar, which some of you asked about before, and so we're going to look at that now. Again, from our book, we often have vocabulary presented and maybe a short little grammatical pattern below. So what are some interactive ways that we can look at vocabulary? So first, of course, we can use the ITools to play the audio and point to the object. So that's quite simple. So let me just show you that here. Okay. One of the good things about teaching online is that we don't have to prepare things like flashcards or pictures of things, or have to do lots of, my drawing is very bad. And so students would never know what I'm actually trying to draw. So we can use either ITools, or we can create our own slides with pictures. So something simple here, yes. With the vocabulary. That we can play the, yes, the audio. It's a very simple activity here. You can zoom in. but we don't necessarily have ITools. I think it's really great and easy to use. If it's deciding it wants to cooperate today.
Page 42. Let's learn.
The voice is too low, Mr. Todd. We couldn't hear it very clearly.
We can't hear your voice, Mr. Todd.
I don't know. So again, you can have the audio, or you can use your own voice. Maybe if your own voice is louder, especially for this kind of activity. But let's go back to the slide, because we want to make it a bit more interactive than that. So again, you can play or show the pictures from the ITools, and you can play the audio directly and get students to point. That's usually something that's quite simple to start with. But then we might want to then ask, okay, what is this? So we show a picture, we can cover the word, and then we can ask individual students to either say or to put it into the chat box. What's this? Yes, okay, an omelette. Everybody, an omelette, good. So you need to practice the pronunciation of this again as well. And you go through all of the vocabulary the same way. This is a good way to present it the first time. And then after we've taught all of the vocabulary, what I do then is I hold up the number that I want them to say next to the word. So for example, if I do this, what word do I say? Yes, it's cereal, good. Or what about if I do this? It's pear. So you can use the numbers next to the vocabulary to help elicit the vocabulary. What are some other things that we can do? We can use an interactive app here, like Nearpod. The Nearpod link is in your handout, so I'm going to show you the link. You don't have to open the link at the moment, just because there are so many people that it might take a bit too much time. But I will put it in your chat box if you want to look at it later. You don't need to look at it now, but you can look at it later. Let me show you what it looks like. If you could you just type yes or no if you have used Nearpod before? Yes, you have used Nearpod, or no. It's simple, it's free, it has a lot of different applications that you can use, and you can either do it as student-paced, which means that it's for homework, or you can do it live, which means it's happening at the same time as the lesson. So I'm going to use the student-paced. Actually, I'm just going to do a preview. It has about 10 different types of activities, and for lower primary, I think it's really quite useful. It has certain features here. Also, Nearpod is starting to make a lot of content, so you might be able to find stuff on English language, already videos made for you, saves us time. Okay. So one of the most common activities I do with this is matching words to pictures. So you go into the Nearpod, you choose matching activity, and then you type in the word, and then it links directly to a Google image search. So you can just, through the app, you don't need to copy, paste, download anything, it does it for you. Students need to match the instructions are here. You can put the instructions in Indonesian as well. Also, you can voice record instructions. So that's also good for low-level learners. And here, I think you can change the function, but if they get the answer wrong, well, that correct, good. If they get the response wrong, it gives them a cross, but it lets them try again. So they can keep trying until they get the correct response. So it's a really good practice. And as I said before, you can do it live with everybody competing at the same time to race to do it, or you can do it as a homework task. The second activity I did here is, now let's see if you can hear. Activity is I've recorded my voice, and then they have to choose what they hear. So let's see if this works. Can you hear that?
The voice is too low.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Okay,
I don't know how to make it better.
Okay.
Let me try again. Anyway, let's try without my earphones in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you play that?
Yeah, the
Still
sound
the
is quite
same,
low.
Mr. Todd.
I'm sorry. But this means that the students can play it and hear it on their own computer. Yes. So sorry. This is the sound can be played directly to the student's computer so they can hear it. It's not waiting to hear it from you. So here, even though you can't hear it very loudly, later when you go and visit this website and you can explore, you'll be able to hear my voice because it's recorded on the site. So you can, yes, record audio, and then they choose and move on to the next task. So it has picture and words. Oh, great. Thank you, Christina, saying you might check the screen share settings. Great. I'll take a look at that. Thank you. So yes, you can do, can you hear me now, everyone? Yes?
Yes, Mr. Todd.
Great. Yes, so you can use it as a listening activity. You can embed the audio file. You can put a recording, or you can record your own voice. Or you can put a video, or you can put a link to YouTube. So it really is quite useful for listening tasks here. Yes, let's go back to the PowerPoint slides. Please take a look at it later. There are so many different functions of Nearpod. There's gap fill, there's open answer question, there is video comment where you upload a video and it will stop and ask them a question. And before they get the question correct, then the video stops, they cannot continue. Next would be something like a pronunciation activity. Pronunciation activity is good for, we can do this online, yep. So here we want to check for word stress, for example. So here we have omelette. And to show that the sound is big, omelette, omelette. It's not omelette, 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 omelette. What about pancake? Pancake, pancake. We don't say pancake, pancake. No, pancake. Good. Yogurt, yogurt. Not yogurt, yogurt. And cereal, cereal. Not cereal, not cereal. Cereal. So I think especially when sometimes Indonesian has the same word as English, sometimes the word stress is different. Like for example, pencil. In English we say pencil, but in Indonesian it's pencil. So often when there's an English word that's used in Indonesian, the word stress is different. Hotel in English, hotel. In Bahasa, hotel, hotel. So word stress is really quite useful, and you can do it with your hand, or you can show it on the screen. Something we also like to do, especially with low-level primary, is phonics activities, and we can look at long and short sounds. So in these words, sometimes we have long sounds, and sometimes we have short sounds. So how do we do this? Well, we do this activity called long or short. Long is when I get my students to, they can either hold a long pencil and a short pencil, or they can just use their hands. So for example, if I say E, E, is that a long or a short E? Can people show me with their hands at their screen? E, is that long or is that a short sound? Can people show me? E, is that long? I think you, Miss Rivka. Yes, it's long. E. What about E? E is short. Good. What about A? A. Short. What about A? A. Long. What about O? O. Long. Good. And Ah. Ah. Ah is short. So a long vowel is the name we call it. So it's A, E, I, O, U. That's a long vowel. Short is A, E, O, U. So I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell me if it's a long or a short sound. Okay? Peach. Peach. Long or short? Peach. It's long. E. E. Peach. It's not petch. Petch is short, but it's peach. Sometimes students don't stretch the sound. What about T? Number 7, T. Long or short? It's long. T. What about hot? Hot. Is it a long or a short O? It's short. Hot. It's not hoot chocolate. It's hot chocolate. So you can do this activity by getting students to hands together for short or hands apart for long. It's more of a phonics activity, but I know some of you are still looking at phonics for that level, for lower primary. Great. Yes. Great. Yes, the Cambridge Dictionary does again show us how to pronounce stress. So again, if you are not sure, you can open a link to the online dictionary and you can play the pronunciation if you are not confident with your own pronunciation, or use the audio from the book. Great. Another thing that we want to do is to get students thinking about grouping and categorizing vocabulary. This is partly grammatical, but also it's partly contextual. So here, with my students, I would ask them to put them into food and drink. Yep, that's something easy we can do to categorize. It could be breakfast foods and fruit. It could be shape. It could be taste. It could be size, depending on your vocabulary. But when you have a range of different vocabulary like this, you could ask them to put it into groups. This is probably best done on something like a Google Drive shared document where they can make a list, or they can drag pictures from left or right. There are other ways, of course, to do it, checking on the video, but it's good to let them work with it. What other categories could we have? Let's say if you're teaching animals, what kind of categories could you divide, ask students to divide them into? Yeah, mammals, good. Wild animals, yep. Wild and tame, good. Reptiles, good. Sea animals, yes. Two legs, 4 legs. Pets, not pets. Big, small, tall, short, carnivorous, live on land. Yeah, what about jobs? What about if we're teaching occupations or jobs? How could you ask students to categorize them? Good. Yep, male, female jobs, yes. Becoming less distinct as we get a bit older. Action jobs, yes. Service and producer. Office or outdoors, yes. Based on the place. Yeah, service and producer, yes. So, great. We can really do this with any group of vocabulary. Why? Why do you think that this is a good activity? Thanks, Miss Emma. Hi, Fee. Yes, thank you. Why do you think that this categorizing of vocabulary is a good idea? Is there someone who would like to speak? Someone who would like to... Miss Acha, can you choose someone who would like to answer the question?
We can invite Miss Ima.
Yes, great.
Siti Mariam.
Great.
Please, Miss
Great.
Ima,
Miss,
would you
Miss
please
Ima, are you there?
unmute your microphone first?
Okay.
Great. So why is this activity a useful or a good activity, do you think?
Yeah, it can help them categorize and identify things, which is important, of course, yeah. And it is in daily lives too for their future and something like that.
Yeah, great, good. Miss Christina, you had some ideas as well. Thank you very much, Miss Emma. Miss Christina, why else do you think? It seems like a very simple activity, but it's really useful for certain reasons. Now, Miss Christina, are you there?
Miss Christina Ratna, ya?
Yes.
Hello, Miss Christina Ratna? Please unmute yourself first. Hello, Miss?
Yes, Miss Christina Natalia.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Miss Christina.
Hello, I'm so sorry. I have to wear my microphone when I'm talking. Sorry.
Okay, that's
Yes.
no problem.
Yep.
So
Okay,
why is this a useful kind of activity to do, categorizing?
Yes, I think for the categories, it's very important for the students to have them in memorizing the vocabulary, and they will be easier to know the meaning of the vocabulary based on the categories. I think like that.
Yeah, good. Yes,
Yeah.
one of the biggest problems is that students forget vocabulary. Yes? Students forget vocabulary quickly. If
Yes.
we can do activities like describe, categorize, use it in a different sentence, that means they're thinking about it more. Oh, it's not just pear, fruit, whatever. Oh, it's a sweet fruit. It's a green fruit. It doesn't grow in Indonesia. So all of these things can help remember, because students forget vocabulary very quickly. So it helps them to memorize. Also, yes, it helps them practice critical thinking skills. So in terms of how can I think about similarities and differences in things. So, okay, here is a snake, a goldfish, a turtle, a rabbit. They're all pets. Yes, they're all pets, so they're in one group, but how can we differentiate? So it's really useful to help with practicing critical thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Yes, sometimes teachers say, how do I get my primary one to do critical thinking? First is easy, fruit or vegetables, animals, cute or dangerous, or activities, colors you like, colors you don't like. Sometimes categorizing can be personal as well. It's just getting them to think about what they're learning a bit more. Yeah, great. Categorizing is a great one. I still do categorizing for up to adult learners as well. It's always good, especially if the categories are not that clear and they have to really think about it. Yeah, ask questions about the vocabulary, of course. If students are confident with vocabulary, sometimes we want to push to see if they can talk about the vocabulary, not just I like hot chocolate, I like pancake, but it could be, okay, what color is it? Is it sweet? Is it hot? Is it cold? So getting them to think about and answer these questions more than just remember the word is quite useful. And it also helps expand their vocabulary. Are there any other vocabulary teaching activities that people have been doing online? Anybody else? Yes, Natalia, yes. Natalia, you said it's easier for them to remember things that are lumped together. Yes, lumped, put into a group. Yes, correct. Things like reptiles. Oh, what are reptiles? If I say remember all animals, it's challenging. But if I say remember pets, remember animals that live in the ocean, remember four-legged animals, mammals, carnivores, it helps them, especially with such a big topic. Would anybody like to share other vocabulary activities they're doing online at the moment?
Maybe we can invite Mr. Alfred, Mr. Todd.
Okay, great, Mr. Alfred. Fantastic. I see, Mr. Alfred, you've been answering lots of my questions. Thank you for being active.
Mr.
Hello,
Alfred,
good
Yes,
afternoon. Yeah, I'm
definitely.
just putting some answers in the chat box.
Great. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'm
This is
from
not a webinar. It's a interactive workshop. So yeah, great. Thank you for being active. So yes, where are you teaching at the moment? Where are you working? And which city are you in?
I'm in Jakarta City and I'm teaching in Universal School,
Okay, great.
Kemayoran.
Fantastic.
Okay,
So
yeah,
what
I'm
are some,
teaching. Yes.
what are some other online vocabulary teaching activities that you're using at the moment?
Okay, sometimes I show picture to them, then I ask them to write description about the picture, as many as they can. So that's one way of developing vocabulary. Aside from that, I have a game like get your favorite toy and say something about that favorite toy. So they will be able to construct sentences and some description words for that favorite toy. So those are some examples of building vocabulary. And I have this also, like for pictures, one word, they have to, they have to guess any word. So they will be able to come up with different vocabularies.
Great, thank you. And I think you mentioned something very unique about online teaching, Mr. Alfred, that they can, you can ask them about their own objects, their own toys, their own house, their own, in class, sometimes we say, what does your bedroom look like? I don't know, I forget. And so we can get them to bring in their actual real life into the lesson, and it creates more of a desire to communicate because it's real. It's not just something in school, it's real. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Alfred.
Actually, the first thing that I am doing with them is like, okay, let's have a game. Show me game, and then show me a red pen, show me a red, and then the last one is show me your favorite toy. And then after that, that's the time they will discuss about their favorite toy.
Yeah, great. So if we have time, we can definitely use that kind of personal activity. Fantastic, thank you. There's some great ideas happening in the chat box. Yes, we can do chain word, we can do watch a video, we can, great. Fantastic. Okay, games, of course. This is a chant. A chant is basically the same as a song. So the activity ideas we did before will be appropriate. Sorry, I just realized we're running out of time here. But let me quickly show you the gap fill activity that is on Nearpod, just as a way to, I'm only showing you such a small number of functions on this Nearpod app. So here you can type in the song, then as the teacher you make the gap fill by clicking the words. Those words go to the bottom of the screen and students just need to drag. This is really useful for students who are not good at typing yet. So lower primary, this is really good. They cannot type or type quickly. So you just put the text here, then they drag. Yes, if it's correct, it stays there. If it is wrong, oh, no, I'm making up stories. So what happens if they're wrong? So you can use that as an assessment. mini assessment tool as well. They get to try again until they do it. Also with Nearpod, all of the data is recorded for the teacher. So the teacher can see how long it took, how many mistakes they made. So this is also, the teacher gets a report at the end of the activity once the students have done it. So you can use this to keep track of student progress. How many times did they need to practice before they got it correct? Okay. Does anyone use Flipgrid? Flipgrid integrates with Nearpod, as well as Flipgrid, I think it integrates with Google Classroom. Right? Yes, so Sylvie, yes, you can create games in Nearpod. Nearpod is really good for that vocab review, grammar review, multiple choice. There's also a competition that you can do in it, gap fill, video, audio, there's lots of different functions. So I definitely check it out, and it's free, and you can create lots and lots of content. There's not really any limit, like some websites have a limit. Yes, okay, Miss Ariella. Miss Ariella, you use Flipgrid. Could you please tell us about your experience with Flipgrid?
Hello, Miss Ariella. Please unmute yourself first. Hello?
That's okay, we're running out of time anyway, Miss Ocha. So Flipgrid is another app where the teacher records a video with instructions and the students record a video as their response. So it's a spit. So for here, they could write their own chant, change the food, they record it, and then they send it to the teacher through this app. You can also do it with the help of parents through WhatsApp, but you can integrate Flipgrid into Nearpod, and so we'll need less help from parents, because parents don't always know how to help. Okay, and Miss Ella, again, lower primary, should they be assisted to fix and do the tasks in the website? Yes, of course. The first, at least half of the activity you can do together on the screen, and then try to get them to finish the last couple of questions by themselves. Okay. As I said before, another activity you can do is correct the mistakes. So you can write the song lyrics, but make mistakes on Google Form, and then they have to listen and fix the mistakes as that's happening. Another grammar check I like to do is called correct or incorrect. Now this is active with just your Zoom or Google Meeting and the slides, so you don't have to go to a different screen for this. If the sentence is correct, I want you to put your thumbs up. If the sentence is incorrect, I want you to put your arms across in front of the screen, okay? So I can see if my students are paying attention, and I can see that some of my students are not paying attention at the moment. Okay, so if it's correct, do this to the screen, please. If it's incorrect, do this. So here is the sentence. He want an egg and 2 burgers. Oh, sorry, he want an egg and 2 burger. This is a grammar checking activity. Of course, it is incorrect. Good. What should the sentence, how many mistakes are there? How many mistakes are in that sentence? I'm seeing people with 2. Good. 2. Anybody else? Yep. So we get them to hold up, and then I ask, okay, Miss Rivka, you're showing me 2 mistakes. Could you please tell me what are the mistakes?
Hello, Miss Kia.
Hello, Miss Rivka.
Hello.
Are you there?
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. All right.
What are the 2 mistakes?
Okay. The first one, the word one, it should be once with letter S. And then the second one, 2 burger, it should be burgers.
Fantastic. Let's click and reveal. Is this correct? Yes, he wants an egg and 2 burgers. With any grammar, thank you so much, Ms. Rivka. Any grammar correction, you need to have it on the screen. Don't just do verbal correction. Students will not hear, they will not see, they will not remember. So this activity, you put a sentence on the bottom, correct or incorrect, how many mistakes, good, what are the mistakes? So this is an easy interactive way to check grammar before you do something like a worksheet for homework, perhaps. Correct or incorrect, how many mistakes, 2, and then I choose a student to say, or they can type in the chat box as well. If you have a big class, get them to use the chat box if they're quick at typing, for upper primary especially. I like doing this as a way to finish a lesson, especially if my lesson is a grammar lesson. Okay? Again, in your handout, you'll have a copy of these slides. Now, that's talking about some quite low-level speaking activities. For higher-level speaking activities, just very quickly, these kind of standard ideas, here is when we really need to use technology a bit more independently. We can assign things like record through Flipgrid, or get students to set up their own Google Meeting, or complete a Google form, because these students are more capable for upper primary. This is not for lower primary. This is too difficult. This is for grade 5 and 6 mostly. Maybe some grade 4 if you have a grade 4 with good technical abilities. So for example, something like this from Family and Friends. I know some of you are from schools that use our Family and Friends. This is a very structured speaking activity. Again, we can use, we can ask students to use we can put students into breakout rooms. We can assign this as homework. So after class, they have to Google Meet each other and record it. But also, if you're using something like the online practice, some of you may have seen a video at the beginning of the session, and I'll show you the online practice website in just a minute. In the Family and Friends Let's Go and Everybody Up online practice sites, students can record the audio, and then the teacher can listen. So it's a really good way to listen to and assess speaking practice as a homework task. Of course, you can also use other apps like WhatsApp or any kind of other recording on the phone device or audio. So students can record the Zoom breakout room, or they can record the Google Meeting. This is for higher level. So teachers can give feedback then. And as a teacher, you can also give your feedback via video. You don't have to necessarily type your feedback. You can record your video as a way to give them feedback about their speaking, or email with the rubric as well. Now, we don't have as much time face-to-face as we do online, and often online tasks take longer. Teachers have many things to deal with and lots to prepare, and assessment can also be challenging. So, the flipped classroom is the idea of kind of dividing work at home with work face-to-face with the teacher. I think we need to change this idea of homework, especially for upper primary, because it's really just preparing and practicing that they do at home, and when it's face-to-face time, then it's what the teacher can help guide. So if we're looking at Bloom's taxonomy, which I'm sure most of you know already, students, this is mainly for upper primary. They can do some vocabulary review before, or learning before. During class, you can do the activities to help practice it. And after class, it's the homework, which is basically speaking and writing. So this is where we look at the flipped classroom in terms of online learning. All of this Oxford series, also Oxford Discover, if you're using that, have self-study tools. And the benefit of a learner management system or online practice is that you can use it for many different tasks. Again, this is the link that will be in your handout, so you don't need to worry about writing it down. But let's take a look at the family and friends one. I'll just very, very quickly show you that. Of course, this gives you instant feedback about your students' performance. You can view the reports, and it keeps all of the statistics and data. With the online practice, and you can keep your classes separate from each other. Yes, I am registered. So to find out about registering, you can contact one of our education consultants. But very, very quickly, let's say level 6. Here with the resources, you see here we've got unit tests, progress tests, skills tests. All of these can be done online, including recording speaking. There's lots of additional testing materials that are here. And again, some teachers have found that students have been cheating with Google Drive or something, but this helps them not be able to do that. You can also do testing during class time if that's your issue. So there's a lot of testing resources. There's a lot of extra worksheets for the teacher to use. There are activities for the students for every unit, every sub-skill. And yes, the fluency time, the speaking activity we talked about before. Here, that they can record their part of the conversation. So here, they can be A or B and record it, and then the teacher can send it. That's good for checking things like pronunciation. So it's giving them an opportunity to speak. So if you want, that's talking about the online practice sites. Yes, okay. Enough about that. Okay, just quickly, about 1 more minute to finish. Of course, if you're not using an online practice book or learner management system, then we know other apps that we can make it work through. Flipgrid is a really great tool for speaking because it's video and speaking. So there's lots of tutorials on YouTube for that. Basically, what I want to finish with today is when, as a teacher, you need to ask yourself, what is the most effective use of lesson time and what can be done as self-study? So things that I would use for use of lesson time, maybe explaining grammar, maybe explaining concepts, perhaps giving some background knowledge to a situation. Also, it's for the students to show me what they've learned, so it's for them to practice, especially speaking in a group environment. But every class is different, every teacher is different. I'm not your boss, I'm not telling you what to do. And maybe each lesson it's different. Maybe this week it's important to focus on grammar in the class faced live and vocabulary you give as homework. I mean more vocabulary tasks, but next week maybe reading is the focus. Next week maybe writing is the focus. So depending on the skill, I think it should change. It shouldn't always be the same thing every focus of every lesson. You don't have enough time. Yeah, so you need to choose wisely what you think. That's why something like the Nearpod or Google Drive or even the ebook can show you where students are having difficulty. It's a good assessment tool. Okay, and finally, again, it really does help for young learners, especially young learners, to have something tangible. That means they can hold. That means that when you are talking, they can also look at their book. That means if they're doing homework, they're learning how to write. They can still use the workbook and parents take a photo and send it to you. There's also studies that show if we read something printed, we remember it better than if it's on a screen. A screen in our brain at this moment, we can't remember as well. perhaps just because there's so much information. So the printed book really does help young learners keep focus and keep track of learning. They already spend a lot of time with screens. It's good to break up time between the screen and the book. There's also free student websites. Again, these links are in your handouts. These are fun games that they can practice for vocab, so you can give that for homework. But this doesn't give any tracking, so the teacher cannot check progress. This is just a free to student website. All of the OUP books have these free websites as well, with the songs, with the videos. You might want to use the videos in class for the songs particularly. Again, all of the links are in your handout. Finally, for extra teacher development, there is the Oxford Teachers Club. And last of all, there's also the blog, talking about changes in education. It's a bit more theoretical and academic, but it might be helpful for you as well. If you need any further information about any of our digital or print components, please contact one of our education consultants. The information with how to do that will be given to you soon. Okay, so thank you everyone, Ms. Ocha. I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Todd, for the wonderful and also very informative session about the technology we could use for speaking activities for young learners. And before we go to the Q&A session, I would like to share or summarize some important things. Bapak Ibu Guru yang kami hormati, sebelum masuk ke sesi tanya jawab, saya akan sedikit merangkum ya pemaparan dari Mr. Todd Cordy. Bapak Ibu pendidik, kami sangat berharap semoga sesi siang hari ini dapat memberikan insights dan tentunya strategi baru ya untuk Bapak Ibu Guru dan bisa menjadi jawaban untuk pengajaran bahasa Inggris yang tentunya impactful pada institusi sekolah maupun lembaga kursus, khususnya di kondisi saat ini. Dan program unggulan dari Oxford University Press, yaitu Family and Friends, Everybody Up, dan juga Let's Go. Program ini merupakan program yang fully digital dan terdiri dari textbook dan online practice yang mengacu pada Common European Framework of Reference, serta dilengkapi dengan beragam kegiatan latihan edukatif yang sudah dipaparkan oleh Mr. Todd Cordy tadi ya, sehingga kemampuan bahasa Inggris anak didik Anda tentunya menjadi tetap terasah dan tentunya dengan pegangan textbook juga tetap penting ya menjadi materi pendukung bagi guru dan siswa dalam program pembelajaran jarak jauh untuk sekolah ataupun di lembaga kursus. Dan tentunya dilengkapi dengan fitur yang lengkap Bapak Ibu Guru dapat dengan mudah memberikan tugas dan latihan tambahan. Dan pastinya akan sangat terbantu untuk memonitor progres dan perkembangan setiap siswa dalam proses pembelajaran jarak jauh ini. Bapak Ibu yang tertarik menggunakan program ini yang telah dipresentasikan oleh Mr. Todd Cordy hari ini, khususnya untuk 3 pilihan program judul tadi, Family and Friends, Everybody Up, dan Let's Go, yang dapat mendukung lembaga kursus maupun sekolah Bapak Ibu sekalian, silakan menghubungi Education Consultant Asta Ilmu Sukses atau menghubungi nomor WhatsApp kami di 0856 9785 6420 atau bisa juga melalui email yang sudah tertera pada layar. Silakan dapat dicatat terlebih dahulu. Saya ulangi untuk nomornya 0856 9785 6420. Ya, baik. And now we are continue to the Q&A session. For those who would like to ask directly to Mr. Todd, you can use the raise hand feature. Okay, Mr. Todd, we have the first participant here. It's Miss Intan Paradita. Please, Miss Intan, unmute yourself first. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mister, I have 10 classes to teach. Each class, more than 20 students. How can I get, my questions is, how can I get their speaking score? Could you like to recommend me a nice application because it's too hard for me when I check it out by one, their speaking skills. It takes too much time. Can you give me a recommend application?
What level primary do you teach?
I have 4th grade.
4th grade.
Yes.
Are they able to use Google Meeting independently, do you think?
Google Meeting, yeah. Google Meeting.
Because what you can do is you can set up a time where they have to do an activity that's not during your class time, and then you have a captain or a leader that will record their talking discussion or activity, and then it will be emailed to you. It's a bit complicated, especially for grade 4. So I would probably suggest something more like Flipgrid, or even ask parents to WhatsApp and video or voice record students doing the task so you can listen at a later time. Speaking assessment always takes a bit of extra time. You could ask students to arrange a performance or like a dialogue or something, and you ask one of the parents to record, but they do it as a group. Because I'm not aware of your exact situation, it's a little bit difficult to give you specific advice, but recording is probably the easiest way. Ask for the parents to record, or Flipgrid, and they can do, but it's still individual videos for Flipgrid unless they get together, but they probably shouldn't be going to each other's houses at the moment. So think about recording. I think it's the only way for the moment, and hopefully next year you'll be back in class. But yeah, recording I think is the only way. Either through a site like the Oxford Learners site, or just through something as simple as WhatsApp and get the parents to send it to you. Yeah. Group projects are difficult because of technology for that age group. That would be my suggestion. Sorry, it's not, there's no easy solution sometimes. I'm not Harry Potter. I'm not Harry Potter. I don't have a magic wand, but it would be the individual recording, unfortunately, at this stage. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
Mr.
very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Todd, and also Miss Intan. Now I would like to invite Miss Ella. Please, Miss Ella, you can unmute yourself first.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's me again. I am Miss Ella from Al-Azhar 58 Balikpapan. Okay. My question is, do you have any recommendation for reading comprehension activities? Because usually I only use the reading text from the book, or maybe sometimes I Google it from some website. But I think I need more interesting idea to practice or to deliver reading comprehension activity in the class, because sometimes it's boring. So maybe you have any more ideas to be shared here for me and to the other teachers. Please, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ella. Reading is such a big topic. Last week I did a session about reading for teenagers. Maybe Ocho, you could send Ms. Ella the handout for that session, the slides.
Okay.
And they can give you some ideas. Basically, there are some different ways to do it. One is to play the audio at the same time as the reading with pictures. That helps. Second is to use something like Nearpod, because it has gap fill and it has multiple choice, short answer. Short answer also with Nearpod, I forgot to mention, I don't know why I forgot this. Nearpod, students can also respond verbally as their answer. So you could have a listening and then students can answer just by speaking, or by writing, or by questions that you give. At the moment, the Oxford Learner bookshelf has lots of their titles free available at the moment. I'll put that link in the chat box.
Okay.
So they're extra readers. So they're graded for different levels of proficiency. But until the end of August, I think, it has over 100 free readers. So it's free to sign up with. Like, it's the same email as your other Oxford account. If you already
Okay.
have Oxford, if you
Yeah,
already
if you
signed up
have
for Oxford, but I'll send the
if you
link.
have like any more training about how to deliver reading comprehension, especially in comprehension skills, because as we know that to comprehend the text, to comprehend the meaning, the idea of the paragraph, it sometimes is very difficult, especially for second language speaking country like in Indonesia. And that's why if you have like further or more training about that, I would love to join. I would love to
Okay, great.
join, and I would love to know. Thank you,
Yes,
sir. Thank
make
you.
sure you watch out then for our Minggu Belajar Bersama dengan MTA. So the third or the last week of the month, we have one session for primary, one session for kindergarten, one session for secondary, and each week we do a different kind of skill. So I think I can't remember the schedule, but Acha, how do people get information about Minggu Belajar?
Yes,
Minggu Belajar. Okay.
you can go to our website www.hadiryu.id.
Can you please type it on the chat?
Yes,
On the chat.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe you can type it on the chat, so I will screenshot or I do something with it.
Yeah, sure.
Minggu Belajar. Okay, Minggu.
And so each month there are different topics, there are different speakers. I'm one of the trainers, but we have trainers, other trainers as well. And so maybe there's a topic there that you find relevant and useful. And usually those sessions are a bit smaller, so maybe just 50 people, so there's more time to interact as well.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're
Very
welcome,
helpful.
Allah. Thank you so much. I think that's
And
all we have time for questions today, Acha, yes?
I think one more question
Okay, sure.
from Miss Adolfina. Hello, Miss Adolfina? Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, hi.
Good afternoon. Miss Adolfina, where are you teaching and where do you live?
Oh, I'm teaching in Balisar Academy and then in Bali, of
Okay.
course.
Great.
Yeah, I've been, joining this meeting since like few weeks ago. Thank you so much for sharing a lot of things. Actually, I would like to share things because I think I get a lot of things from this meeting. From Minggu Belajar and then your meeting like last week also.
Great,
So
thank you.
I would like to share things about what we do in our school. We are using Supermind and some other books. So thinking about speaking skills that one of the participants asked. So of course we cannot do like dialogue because we cannot do two-way communication. Like I can speak with the students, but online. But when they do the like dialogue, they cannot face to face, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is that let's say when we talk about last week, we talked about how to use how to add past tense in the conversation. So I give them a task. Each of them make like what you did before, what you said before. They are going to make a video about them sharing what is their best experience or their amazing experience that they had previous. So that's what I do. And then I'm using Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I use rubric scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So I list things that I have to score, and it will it really helped me to score the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because rubric, like I check, of course I have the submission as the one of the criteria, and then check their expression, and then check how they use each of the elements in past tense or in the task appear on the book, things like that. So it really helped me, especially for speaking skill. So different, I know, because actually I want them to speak face to face, but
yes.
What can I do? So that's what I do. And
exactly.
then
we have to adapt our kind of expectations for the moment, and really investigate the tools that are available. So many are free now, and as you said, you can get them with here is the rubric. You can, for me, instead of having to assess in a class where I have to listen to so many students at the same time, it's easy that they record, and then I have time to watch and to listen properly and to give good feedback and give good advice that's actionable, which is something that in a regular class we don't have as much time. And I do like the idea of sending a video as feedback or written feedback. Both are okay as well. Sorry, continue, Ms. Arafina.
Okay,
Is there something else you wanted to say?
Yes.
Okay.
And then about the reading, I teach grade 1 and also grade 4. And then, yes, reading is quite, we use different kind of book, and it's a lot of story, quite, a lot of story inside. But then this is what I do. So we've got like 3 hours. So I divide in 3 sessions. But prior to class, I usually I list things that they have to do. For example, in the story, one of the element or one of the comprehension skill is about, let's say, prediction or finding the characters. So, well, prior to class, I ask them to watch YouTube. I search in YouTube anything about character or let's say about prediction and so on. So I ask them to watch first, but of course, at least I ask the parents to guide them, to be with them, accompany them. You cannot let them alone, because most of the YouTube video are, like it's not from YouTube for kids. So a lot of ads and so on. So you need parents there. And then, so prior to class, that's what I'm going to do. I give them, okay, you have to watch this video, and in this video, I list them what they have to find out there. So they have to focus themselves on the video, on things they have to find, not only just watching, but you have to think what you're going to look in that video. Yes. And later on, the first session, so I show them some pictures. For example, last time in the story, we talk about prediction, but then first I start showing them the, gray cloud. And I said to them, what you see here on the picture, we're using Zoom now. In the first session, we use Zoom. So I said, okay, what you see here, they say it's a gray cloud. They say, oh, it's going to rain. Some advanced kids, they just jump to the answer. So I say, okay, so what will happen when you see this? It probably rain, it will rain, maybe yes, maybe no, but it's a prediction, things like that, And then we just story like that.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Arafina. I think that's a really great point that you're mentioning, and Ms. Alla, this could also help you, is when we're looking at analyzing reading, we should really try to link it back to their real life. So for example, if you're going to read a story and the theme is like good and evil, perhaps introduce it with a movie that they already know. So for example, have you watched The Avengers? Well, who is good and who is bad? How do we know that? Or you could link it to an Indonesian fairy tale that they know. Or what happens in this fairy tale? If you're explaining the idea of the challenge that's to overcome, either in their everyday life by looking outside at a cloud and what's going to happen, or linking it back to their cultural or daily life experience to use something they already know to then help understand something new is really helpful. So that idea of good character versus bad character, what stories do you already know about a bad character? What makes them bad? Okay, we're going to read a story and I want you to tell me who is the good character, who is the bad character, and why. So really linking personal, either environmental, like what's in their daily life, or through stories that they already know as a child, through Indonesian culture, through Indonesian fairy tales, Indonesian common, even TV characters, because you start with something new, something they know, and then you can build something that's challenging or different. It gets them interested because they are taught, oh yes, I know SpongeBob. Well, what do we think about SpongeBob? Is he, and it gets them involved because they like to talk about what they know. Yeah, so that would be my way to get them motivated. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So for people asking about links to family and friends, it's in the handout, you'll see a link, but again, one of our education consultants will follow up with you about those questions after the session. We have all your information, so we'll be following up with you individually. Thank you so much. I think, Ms. Ocha, now it's time for door prize. feedback, that kind of thing?
Okay, this is almost time, so I have to end the Q&A session. So, but don't worry, if you still have any question, you can also deliver your question or idea to the written email and WhatsApp number on the screen. And just like what Mr. Todd Cordy have mentioned before, we are going to have a door prize session. But before that, I would like to share information about today's download link for the material. So, dear educators, for you who would like to download today's material, you can access it through the link displayed on the screen. Silakan dapat dicatat terlebih dahulu. You can take a note, and then you can download it later after the session. Also, the download link will also be shared at the chat box and also the WhatsApp group. Okay. Thank you. And now